Hey everyone, welcome to the next lesson in the WordPress Custom Post Metabox course. In this lesson, we are finally going to get to the meat of the plugin, and that is uploading MP3 files within the context of our Metabox. Now, just to set expectations, this particular lesson is going to focus on uploading MP3s only. We're not going to worry about error handling, and we're not going to worry about displaying any type of message to the user on whether or not something was successful. We're also not going to worry about providing any kind of feedback based on the upload using any kind of message dialogues or anything like that. That will come in the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to focus purely on uploading files and using the WordPress API to do so. So let's go ahead and hop back into our browser. If you remember where we left off, you'll recall that we have specified the title of an MP3. And we have an input field for specifying an MP3 file, although it's not being saved yet. And if you view the post in question that we've been working with, you'll notice that at the bottom of the post, it says the MP3 title is Superman Theme by John Williams. We've also done a little bit of work with data sanitization and validation to make sure that users can't inject malicious scripts or malicious code into our Metabox. And so now we're ready to begin with uploading files. So at this point, go ahead and launch your IDE. Next, we'll scroll down to our Save Metabox Data function. And first, we validate that the user has permission to save, given the current post ID and the nonce field. We take a look at the post collection to see if the MP3 title is set, and if it is, we will then update the post meta. Now, this is the same function that we're also going to use in order to upload our files. So, right after the conditional for checking the MP3 title, let's check to see if we have a file to upload. So we're already in the conditional knowing that the user has permission to save the post. However, rather than checking the post array, we want to check the files collection, and we want to look for MP3 file. Now, the reason that I'm looking for MP3 file is because that is the name of the input element that we specified earlier in the course. Another precaution that we can make is that we make sure that the value is not empty. Once we've gotten this far, we can test that the files collection is being populated with a file, even though we won't actually be uploading it yet. And here's a good way to do a sanity check on that. Let's do a printr statement of files, MP3 file, and we'll save our work. Now at this point, we'll return back to the browser and we'll go to edit the page. We'll then choose a file. Now I'm just going to select a sample MP3 from my music directory. Permitting everything goes correctly, we'll update the post, and we should see a printout on the screen of information about the files in the file collection. So let's do that now. Oops, we didn't actually see anything. In fact, nothing printed out. However, it looks like our metadata is still saved, but our MP3 file didn't, and we didn't see any information about it. So let's open up our Chrome Developer Tools, and let's do an inspect on the form that is used to submit all of this information to the server side. So as we scroll up, we'll notice here's a form. And we have the name, the action, the method, and the ID. Now, if you're going to be uploading information across the wire that is more than just text, you have to declare another attribute on the form. And specifically, that is the enc type data or ENC type data. And the way that we do this is by adding a JavaScript file. So let's return to our IDE once again. Let's make sure that we're in the root of our custom post Metabox plugin directory. And we'll create a new folder called JS. We'll also create a new file, and we'll call it admin.js. We'll go ahead and populate this as needed. Okay, as you can see, we have a basic skeleton for a JavaScript file that will be using jQuery, and that is ready to fire as soon as the DOM is ready. So let's hop back into the core plugin file, and then we will enqueue this script specifically for post pages. To do that, we will then use the WP enqueue script method. We can call this cbmp admin because it is a script. It's not going to conflict with the style. And we make sure that we call admin.js. And so what we'll do is we'll specify an attribute to the form that's on the page, and we'll give it an ink type, and we'll set its value to multi-part form data. Now this is what will signify to the server that there's information that's coming across the wire that's more than just text, such as data like an MP3 file. So let's return back to our browser, refresh the page so that the new JavaScript is loaded. Scroll down, we'll select an MP3, and it can really be any one that you want. Click Update, and if you're lucky, you should see something like this. Notice that the very first line is an array. It's got the name of the file, it's got the type of the file. It has a temporary name or a temp underscore name, it has an error equal to 0, and it has a size. The warnings aren't necessarily pertinent right now, but it's basically saying that it can't modify any other header information because we are modifying the header using our print_r statement. So let's make a note of this information right here because this is what we need to use the WordPress API to save our information. So copy it, return back to the IDE, and then let's just make a little code comment with this information. All right, just like we've done in previous lessons in the course, I've gone ahead and written out 2 steps that we need to follow before writing any code. Number 1, we want to upload the MP3 to the uploads directory. And then after that, we want to associate this MP3 with the post meta. Specifically, we want the URL of the MP3 so we can give users the ability to download the file. If we open up our web browser and hop into the WP upload bits article in the codex, you'll notice that this creates a file in the upload folder with the given content. In our case, the given content will be the MP3 file. And notice that the API says that it accepts 4 different parameters, when in reality, we only have to pass 2. Specifically, we're going to pass the name. We're then going to pass null for the deprecated value. We're going to pass the file content as the bits. And then for the time, we're not worried about it. So let's return back to the IDE. First, we'll say WP upload bits. We'll use files, and since it's part of the MP3 file array, we'll use the name. We'll use null as the second parameter, and then after that, we're going to use the PHP function file get contents, and we're going to use files, MP3 file, temp, name. And the reason that we're doing this, we're telling file get contents to retrieve the value of the file located at the temp name URL. And if you remember from what we've pasted here, the temp name is applications map tmp php and then a generated string. Now, this is good. However, we still need a response because we have to associate the response with the post meta. So let's go back to the browser and take a look at what the return values are for the response. We're going to get back an array that has the following keys. It'll give the file, which gives the path to the file on the system. We'll get a URL, which will provide us a URL by which users can access it via the web browser. And we get an error. So when something goes wrong, we can check to see if there is a problem, and if so, handle it accordingly. So let's return to our IDE. And let's store the response of WP upload bits into a response variable. Next, we'll say that if 0 is equal to the length of the string of the response's error, then we're okay to proceed. So now let's update the post meta with the post ID. We'll just call it this MP3, and then we'll also use the response URL. Now, let's go back to our browser and attempt to upload a file. Once again, we'll choose a sample file. And we'll click Update. We scroll down. And obviously, there's no way to know if the file's been updated correctly. So, let's return back to our IDE. We can clean this up a little bit by removing the code comments. We'll then go down to the function that we are using to display in the content, and we will say HTML equals the MP3 path is, we'll add a non-breaking space just to make it a little bit cleaner, and we'll say get post meta, get the ID, MP3, and we want it returned as a string, so we'll say true. And remember to concatenate this HTML to the value that you've already defined. So let's save our work, return to the browser. We'll go to the Hello World homepage and we'll refresh. And if you take a look, it says somewhat in a bit of jargon, the MP3 path is HTTP localhost WP content uploads 2013-8 Bob Rob 12. So let's clean this up a little bit. Let's make sure that we're concatenating this HTML to the content. We'll save our work and notice that we now have an anchor that links to our MP3 file. It's pretty neat, right? Of course, there is some more that we can do here. But first, if you receive an error when trying to load it in your browser, make sure that you have the proper string concatenation operators both before get post meta and after the get post meta call. Make sure that you're also properly concatenating your HTML on the second and third lines as well as here with the content. Now at this point, we're actually ready to begin talking about how to style some of the messages in the back end, and we're also looking on how to handle file uploads. So in the next set of lessons, that's exactly what we're going to do. Specifically in the next lesson, we'll make sure that users are only able to upload MP3s and then display an error. We're almost done. I'm really excited with the progress that we've made, and I will see you in the next screencast.